Tonight at Ice House, Corey Palmer will be closing his residency at Ice House. So how many shows have you been playing in this residency, Corey?
This is the fourth one. Yep.
The others have been on Wednesdays.
Right.
So this is the big blowout finale.
Right. This is the end all, mother of all shows.
Yeah.
We've kind of worked up to this, playing some shorter sets previously, and this is kind of the big cap.
This is a tale of two Coreys, because we've got Cool Moon.
Yep.
Will be playing their first full band performance.
Right.
I saw Corey do a solo set, other Corey do a solo set as Cool Moon. The first ever one at the Nomad just earlier this week, and it was great. So we've got a lot to look forward to there. Throughout the course of this episode, you can hear the song Heartache, which is a 24-minute single about being sad and getting better. That's how it's described on Bandcamp. I think that's a good, accurate description. So let's kind of take a journey through it and focus on like some specific moments. What's the very first sound that we heard?
It's like this down-sampled clap that has been like pitch shifted, and the resolution's been lowered to a point where it just sounds like almost like hitting your head against the wall a little bit. That was the intention with that first sound, was a little bit of monotony and stuck in a rut. And
the first vocal is "Who knows why, but you can make it right."
That was that pleading with God, like, I don't know why I'm reaching out like this or asking, but perhaps you are the answer and you can guide me at this point or show me the way. And it's just, it hopefully comes off as a desperate lyric, like, I don't know why, but I'm here and I'm kind of begging at this point.
And no one else could get me back. Ooh.
That's part of I tried to do maybe poorly with the overdubbing of the vocals and have more of a choral gospel sounding with the layers to give it that vibe, like a little more spiritual. And I'm here kind of on my knees right now, So there's a little bit of optimism to that first section too.
That
it's
definitely
like
is,
it's kind of putting it all out there, and like I came here because I feel like I can make a change,
When the lyric is "Please don't walk away from me now," there's almost like an Elvis Costello intonation there. I think. Do you like Elvis Costello?
I love Elvis Costello, and that's subliminal, I'm sure. I've probably ripped him off a million times, but
I'm imagining kind of waves in this throughout this first few minutes of the song, insofar as all of a sudden then we're back where we began again.
Yeah, you're kind of endlessly reminded when you're depressed, like you start to see a little bit of light, and then it's just something happens where you're like, oh, that's right, I can't just decide. It just is like a refrain almost.
And then there's our first reference to the heart. Stop the part where my heart every night is dwindling.
A little bit describing the situation too, like I've got nothing left right now. Stop it, basically. Like, please. And
stop it and take me back. Becomes a recurring refrain.
It's kind of like take me back to happiness, and being and not dwelling on. It's so hard to describe, because you just, when you're down like that, you don't really know why. You don't have a specific purpose for it. It's just kind of there, and like you end up a little desperate to crawl out.
So in this part of the song, then, where we keep on finding ourselves back at the starting point, it's almost like there are verses, and then we have this Elvis Costello-esque bit, and then we're communicating what we're addressing God, at least, and then we're back where we started. But what's the significance of there being like waves?
Because it felt like that. Like I said, you get to a point where the optimism is starting to creep back in, and you're starting to kind of explain yourself and find a reason why, and then you're back at the start again, and that's when that theme comes back in. And I thought that theme in particular it summed up where I was at. It's a couple of major moves into kind of a diminished move, and then it never quite resolves itself. And that was the feeling, just that rockiness and that uneasiness of where you're at. You don't have a solution, and that riff doesn't, to me anyways, feel like it ever really has a solution either. It just kind of repeats and in a weird way.
Yeah, so we're caught in this repetition, and it's nightmarish.
Yep.
Then there's a shift, and it's almost as if like the song is like sonically trying to break away from the waves, create a completely different thing. So yeah, what's happening in this new segment then when there's that radical shift?
That's me stretching out a little bit as a producer and trying some new ground or at least some new ground for stuff I've released, and the energy's higher on those parts, and that's those rare moments where you are like, I am gonna do this, I'm gonna beat this, you know? And there's a couple sections. There's the shut this down section, and then the other, I know that you can hear me, I know that you've been listening. It's got the same kind of energy to it. That's the most heavily layered part of the song. And
why is that the most heavily layered part?
It's me trying to be a little Broadway-ish, I guess, like the big opening number, and like here's the big thing with everybody, jazz hands, you know, like all these layers of vocals, and here's the spectrum of emotions we're going to cover, kind of, and then it does this, and then it drops into the transition for the next kind of movement. I wanted to do like a sudden darkness all of a sudden, like almost like a page turn, and here's the reality, like you hyped yourself up, and but back to where you're at.
Precisely. So if this is a story, a 24-minute single about being sad and getting better, it's definitely dramatizing the false conclusions along the way. And that seems to be what's happening at that moment. Once we're into this new darker bit, there is still some electronica fun happening, certainly before too long.
It's a little bit of, I don't want to downplay sanity or insanity. I think there's definitely a little bit of that deliriousness going on. Like, almost like I can't believe this is where my head's at right now. So there's a part, there's a section that comes off. I almost call it like a Billy Idol type section where it's electronic, but that kind of stuff. There's a moment there where I'm like, I don't care what people think. This is where I'm at, and I don't know why I'm here, but you better accept it. And part of that's me talking to myself too, like, you may always have this issue.
So it's kind of embracing
a little bit
one's reality, and kind of owning it. I love the kind of delirium through electronica fun. I think fits in, like, is perfect there. Then we get to a big shift where you showed me a whole life's ambition. That's all I've been worried about. You sat and watched me fight through all my fuck ups. So now we're not addressing. Are we addressing God?
No, that's more to my wife and my kids. It's kind of opening up about how I've, in a way, I don't think I have, but feeling like I've failed them in a lot of ways, or failed myself, and again, that's a depression talking.
Exactly, recognizing, giving voice to the part of you.
It's not necessarily a big reality, but it's me kind of coming clean. Like, I feel like I've let everybody down, and you've had to watch it and kind of struggle through it with me, and you've probably been fully aware of it, and kept a good face on, whether it's my kids or my wife.
When suddenly you're addressing those particular humans, why does it sound the way that it currently does?
I am a sucker for jangly, kind of big open chords, like, and to be honest, I was going for a little bit of Raspberry Beret production aesthetic there. Just kind of that psychedelic pop with a lot of open chords. It just worked out, the chord structure worked out. Production maybe doesn't make the most sense there for the theme, but it was definitely something I wanted to kind of try my hand at a little bit with the, like I said, the big strumming and the a little more electric guitars in there, and wanted to make it a little more organic, raw sounding. So that's, the live drums come back in there, and it's meant to be, I've always equated acoustic and electric guitars and whatnot as being more sincere than electronic music.
The general consensus seems to be that. Unwarranted, perhaps, general consensus.
Yeah, exactly. Don't even get me started. But that's what I wanted to have it be a little more rootsy there. Like, this is me kind of exposing, and here's just some more kind of raw instruments, and maybe they're a little out of tune, and maybe my voice is cracking a little more, but wanted to have that kind of energy to it.
So, and then I think there's a shift from, I'm trying to fit the lines that you got drawn up. So there's like the pressure from like the interpersonal relations. Like, I want to be this for you, but it's difficult.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, look, I got a lot of insecurities, but I kept a pretty good attitude, and that hasn't been easy. So then there's suddenly this confidence. Like, this is what it's like to be me, but I've done this.
Up to that, it's admitting all these faults and kind of backing myself into a corner a little bit. And then I'm in that corner and I say, look, here's why. And
this is my corner. This is what I have to do.
It's finally kind of standing up and being like, I'm doing my best, internally, externally, just the pressures of raising a family and carrying on relationship with friends and family and stuff. It's like I'm doing the best with what I got here.
So there's a kind of celebration of self-knowledge and the confidence to express.
It's also a little bit of like, give me a break. I'm trying here, whether you know it or not. I'm doing my best.
We're about halfway through now. Is there a linear narrative where progress is happening?
Not yet. It's linear in that it's I think steadily going downhill. Whether the music or the melodies reflect that, definitely lyrically the theme is. It's almost like I don't want to call it like a last will and testament type thing, but it's almost like the final soliloquy of like I'm not getting better and I'm getting angrier, and that next section is like almost like I'm resigned. I've put in all this effort, and it's like I just can't wait for it to be over.
And that's where these voices that are panned become audibly present.
They creep back in. Well, that's hopefully it conveys some of that weird mental state you're in, where you're kind of spun a little bit and battling with yourself and battling with what you think is the right thing, and you're battling with your own negativity, and it maybe sounds a little more schizophrenic than it is, but it's I think everybody has that.
Of course. We have
I know what I need to do.
Conflicting thoughts. And, we're right in the heart of Heartache now, like 11 minutes in, halfway through, and it's almost as if the first half from our conversation seems to be just dramatizing, like being in this corner, being in this position, trying to find ways out. There being these moments where it seems like a way has been discovered, but now we're back. And then right in the heart, like, I don't know if I can cope with much more of this.
Right.
What happens in the second half of the song?
That's definitely that 11-ish minute mark. That's probably, like I said, that's the part where I've kind of given up a little bit. I'm not angry. I'm more or less like, just whatever's going to happen, I need this to be over with. Whether it's erasing these feelings or I'm not even sure what the solution is at that point, but it's just desperation for it to be rid of it.
It doesn't seem like there is a solution at that point.
No, and that's when a little bit more of that sinking theme comes in, and with the ocean and that kind of depth of your despair it's become too much to handle at that point, and it's like I might tap out.
The image on the cover. And it's striking me now because we were using the metaphor of waves to discuss the form of the beginning and returning to that point. Ordinary waves, they overturn the smiles because I'm blue, blue, blue. It's like, it's almost like in the heart of the song now we're commenting on what the first half has been dramatizing. But then we get these kind of like funky kind of guitar strikes coming in. By about 12 minutes in, I feel like we're in a slightly different territory.
There's a little bit, like I said, acceptance a little bit. Like, I may not may not have a solution or a way out of this, and it's almost like a little bit of a farewell address. I'll always be grateful for your guiding light. Like, that's me speaking to everybody. Like, I appreciate everything people have taught me and been there for me. But I may not be able to handle this much longer. And it sounds melodramatic, but it's meant to be a little over the top, so you can kind of get
to put an experience into song where someone can relate to it.
Right.
Yeah, there's a dramatic component. You're dramatizing something.
Definitely.
So I wouldn't say it's melodramatic, but it's like making it relatable.
Yeah, definitely.
So what happens when we get into this electronic bit then?
That's more of the admitting, I guess, to people.
The bit where you say you haven't told people, but by virtue of doing that, then you are revealing.
Yeah, and it's just kind of saying, maybe it's in my bones. It's me kind of acknowledging that I don't think anything I've done has caused this.
Yeah. It's
just kind of the way I'm wired, and that's a little bit of it, but it's caused all these dark moments for me. The 100 million times it's got close, like that type of stuff is me just saying, acknowledging that it's been really dark before for me, and within the verses acknowledging that I'm not doing it on purpose. I'm not trying to be a crybaby or whatever you want to call it. It's more like I just this is me, and there's something in me that causes me to do this,
Crawling through the gauntlet, shadows all upon it.
In terms of thinking about like mental health, this is such an important moment, I think, when do I admit to anyone I don't? Should I really even have to? That's really interesting. Playing with the idea of depression coming as a confession, like as the song kind of is a confession.
Yeah.
It's a very confessional song. At the same time, should I have to make this account of myself?
Yeah. There's a guilt that comes with acknowledging that you suffer from something like that, and it's not right. It's a medical thing, but there's definitely that's what I'm trying to paint there, is like, why do I have to make this obvious within this? And it doesn't have to be within a song. It could just be me talking to somebody, like, why should there be a cry for help? Why should this be so over the top? Me kind of yelling it at that point. It should be more commonplace to be accepted and okay with people, and that I've struggled with that. I mean, there's a whole generation of people that deem mental health as kind of a still quackery type stuff. Tons of that, and that's part of it. There's an anger there, like, I'm okay with this. Why can't everybody else be okay with it? Why should I have to be ashamed of it?
And then that really comes through in the delivery of should I really even have to?
Yeah, right. It should be my own business, but at the same time, it's also like you want to be out there with it and be like, hey, I'm not trying to be a dick right now. I'm struggling with something.
Thank you, Beloy, for going on this journey.
It's great.
Journey with us. Now I think we're entering the final movement of the song. The song has gone out of its way to dramatize what false conclusions there might, or false hopes there might be.
Hopefully it gets more sad, more angry. And that at the end of that previous section we talked about, it falls off, and it's dynamically it's one of the loudest moments of the songs, and it's what have I done, and it drops into another transition, and that in a little bit is more of the underwater themes, like you're spinning around
is going to be referred to.
It's almost like I've had a breakthrough at that point, and that's where the scolding part kind of starts to happen.
Benevolent scolding.
Yeah, right. It's more or less like, you can handle this. You've put yourself through this, and you need to get through it for your significant others, your family, and everybody.
So the closest thing to a way out of the waves, it's not the excitement that we have earlier.
Yeah.
It's being really harsh with oneself.
Yeah.
How did this final movement, which is quite different, but at the same time harkens back to a lot of the earlier stuff,
Sure.
how did this kind of it?
It's actually that that chord progression and melody was something I toyed with many years ago, and it happened to fit. With the move after that big section. So I kind of had that. I knew where I needed to start, and I just applied a lyric to it basically. But it's more of a. I wanted to really switch it up after that tense electronic thing, and it's like straight 4 on the floor kick drum for a long stretch and a lot of samples, and then zoom and go into that again, that more organic, earthy sound where it's all the layers are cut away and it's just loose swung waltz kind of.
Another favorite lyric of mine is, do you ever wonder why your dreams won't let you die? The theme of the song is not letting oneself die, of course, but then the dreams are this other thing outside of oneself. The dreams don't let one die.
Yeah, it's a
How
little
did that come to you?
It's more kind of just not letting yourself get to that point. And maybe it's a bad metaphor for that, but like you never do in your dreams. You fall and you wake up right away, and that's kind of what's happening right there. Is I've fallen or whatever in my dream, or I'm drowning in my dream, and I wake up right before, and that's part of the waking up. Is like I haven't found a cure, but I've maybe found a purpose. To keep going.
And it's a massive difference, I think, between saying just we don't die in our dreams and our dreams don't let us die.
Yeah.
I think with the emphasis on them not letting us die. Is that the lyric that is like the turning points?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. That and the next section, verse, your soul's a reflection, that it's
of the heartache.
It's again kind of a coming to terms and being like, what, I've got reasons to keep my chin up and to stay strong and to keep moving forward and crawl out of this.
Even if other people don't realize what it feels like to not be able to shake the heartache, even if they don't have an accurate understanding of mental health and mental health conditions, then I know that this has been my experience, and my heartache is actually something to be proud of.
Yeah. There's less shame by that point, and that's that previous section. Why should this be a confession? It's all kind of coming to that point. Like, I'm okay with this, and it might be a forever struggle, and that's okay. You just need to always have a way out and kind of a reason to live, a reason to climb out each time.
The difficult experiences that don't kill one also give one a power of empathy. And I think that's what's happening when there's this shift. The whole thing's been focusing on your heart, and then there's this shift right near the end to hearing their hearts tonight.
Yeah.
And thinking of the human condition and the human condition as experienced by those that are close to you.
Yeah, definitely. It's me, ending the selfishness basically, and realizing that you kind of put other people through a nightmare when you're in a spell like that as well, and can't you hear that they need you too, and that they're suffering through this with you, and
they have aching hearts, and you know what it feels like to have an aching heart.
Children especially, like that's a big reason to climb out of a funk like that. And part of it too, musically, production wise, it's Big Finish stuff too. Like,
yes, exactly.
It's the refrain, like we come back and revisit the theme one more time, and
with more of the other kind of funk, I think.
Right, actually. Yeah, exactly.
Everything that was there before and seemed inescapable is back, but it's just been it's been dressed up.
Yeah, it's been a little bit flipped, like like it has some optimism to it, I think, at the end. There's with the layers and everything, I tried to be more, more positive with the parts even, like, and not have them quite so dreary sounding.
Yeah, they're there, but they have a different character.
Yep.
Yeah, and they're livable with.
Yeah, definitely. It's I keep saying acceptance, but that's kind of the journey that happens there, is like, you can get down but you can get out, and you can just be okay with that. Like, it's going to happen probably from time to time, but as long as you know it's a normal thing, and you're not some singled out person that this happens to.
Which is, I think, why this song is very important, because other people it gives voice to so much that a pop song wouldn't generally give voice to.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, I've had a lot of people really, really connect with it in that way. So it's when I write stuff like that, I'm always guilty of doing a little over the top drama, but it's almost like sometimes you feel like you need to do that to kind of grab attention for the right people that you're trying to speak to.
Yeah, and people who aren't thinking about like the travails of someone working with a mental health condition.
Yep. You want to be cryptic, but you also want to have some road signs once in a while that are like, oh, this is what he's talking about, or this is what he's trying to convey. So it's a pop music thing, I guess, too, but like you don't want to be too self-important when you're doing this stuff. And
it's helping the listener, though. Like, what might seem as like grandiose or self-dramatizing is really kind of helping the listener be able to relate to what's being conveyed.
And that's why at the end, like, I struggled once it was all over and the bulk was written and tracked. There was a few months where it was just like,
what do I do with this now?
Yeah, I almost wanted to just put it in a can and just have it as some cool thing I could bust out in 10 years and listen to it and then hide it again. But
as a record of your of a bit of your journey.
Yep, a little bit of a journal. But then that is one of the things that kind of helped me put it out. It was like, I remember I played it for a couple of the band members, and Katie in particular actually was like, this is this is good for people to hear. It's good for you to say, but it's also people are going to connect with it. Nick, everybody in the band actually at some point was like, do it, put it out. So,
but then they realized, now we have to play this 20
which
plus
is a whole
song live at Ice.
But that part actually went relatively smoothly. It was one of those things where I got done. I was like, oh my god, how are we going to do this? But I have 6 other really talented people that play with me, and they just each kind of dissected it, and we're like, I got this, I got that, and we've been doing it. So
and you'll be, I think, perhaps opening with this tonight?
We're toying with it. We like to kind of get the cobwebs out usually, so we may open with 1 or 2 other ones just to get loose, but it depends. If we're feeling cocky, we'll I may have just jinxed it, but
I love all the songs. I'm really interested in the relationship between this song and like your other songs, but I'm gonna let you go to practice for it. I'm gonna let me get to editing, so that by the time that it is today, then this exists and you're ready for the show. But you will be a few other treats in tonight's show. You're going to be returning to some of your pre-solo material.
Yep, we're going to play a handful of these Modern Socks songs and maybe a Day Kit song or 2, if anyone remembers those guys.
Day Kit song or 2 even, wow.
Yeah, it's all to be determined at rehearsal later.
Momentarily. In real time.
Yep.
And there'll definitely be some new material beyond Heartache.
Yep, there's a couple new ones that aren't recorded yet we're playing. And I've got a batch of all sorts of new stuff that we're just starting to demo and hand out to the band. So upcoming shows should be fun. Doing these residencies, we've kind of switched it up each night, but we definitely are at a point where we want to get fresh again and have like a brand new set eventually. So it's got to keep it exciting for us as well. So
there's life and there's music beyond Heartache.
Right, yeah. It was just a document of a stretch.
Yeah. And I look forward to talking with you about that when you come back. And we'll be looking back at everything, the Day Kit stuff. We'll be looking back at Modern Socks.
That'll be fun. If I can remember any of it.
I'll remind you of that. And in the meantime, we'll just enjoy it and dance to it at Ice House. 10 o'clock is when the show is 10:30ish. Is
Yep.
when music will probably start. Will that be Cool Moon first?
Yep, Cool Moon will play about like a half hour, and then we've got
Corey number 1.
Yep, first Corey and then second Corey we'll probably play like an hour and a half. So
Yeah.
we'll play until the place is empty, pretty much.
Yeah, which will be late.
Yep. Right.
If we have anything to say or
Yep.
do about it. Yeah. Great. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Corey,
Thank you,
for
Simon.
taking this journey with us.
Thank you so much.
And we'll see you tonight at Ice House.
All right.
10 o'clock. This is Back to the City. I'm Simon Calder. Thank you very much for taking this journey with us.